Okay. Oh, there we go. We're back. All right. I shared a new link. I don't know if this actually worked or not. I think it did.
We're live again?
We're live again. Yeah.
I'll put it up on mine and see if it's the same link.
I shared a new link. It gave me a new link. So
it just says starting soon right now?
It's probably delayed, but yeah.
Okay. Then I think it's the same link because I just hit refresh and.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Ta-da. There you go.
Can they hear us even though it just says starting soon?
They can hear us.
Okay. I just, not that I was going to like say anything bad. I was just curious.
Well, it shouldn't show as starting soon. It should show as us at this point.
Okay. Well, for me, it shows starting soon, but it might be because of the delay.
Is it possible you're on the old stream that it's now? Because that was the start of the old stream.
Okay. Yeah, I was on the old link. So maybe that's not the right link anymore.
Okay, yeah. Because Sakura said it works. People have to go to the new link.
Oh.
So there you go.
Okay, I'm on the new link now.
Okay.
All right.
I should get my notes together.
Launch?
This is we can't do like our pre-recording awkward you and I like
we're gonna do
it. and then our post hit record awkward, you know. So
what you guys are in for a treat. And like, you think the pod has been just our live recording, but it's like filled with edits and you're about to see like just the absolute chaos of
we're doing the recap and then Luton's, oh my god, it's like keep it together. So,
don't mess up.
Yeah. All right, well, hello everyone. It is
sorry.
Oh, okay. Well,
I haven't hit record yet, so
my bad.
I was waiting for like
yeah. Okay, yeah.
I was waiting for the moment.
Okay. It's here.
Well,
you have
on my end, should I still do the music and stuff?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah, I like that.
So for you guys on the stream, you're getting to see, how the sausage is made, but you won't be able to hear the music is what I'm saying. But so bear with us for the next like 15 seconds of silence.
I can never hear the music and I just pretend like I can.
Oh, you're revealing the
sorry. You said the sausage getting that's true.
Broken the illusion.
Yeah, sorry. I can hear it.
Yeah.
I can hear music.
Blake can't hear the music. You found out here first. All right. So I'm gonna get that started and then okay. So bear with us for a second. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Pixelbits podcast, the podcast about all the nerdy things we love and enjoy. As always, we're your hosts. I'm Will, that's Blake, and today we're here to talk a little Critical Role, but this time, live. First time ever. Some of you already know, but, for the rest of you out there in later than now land, this is live, so please excuse us if anything weird happens.
Which we actually don't edit anything on our show, so I don't...
No, we don't.
I don't anticipate anything weird to happen.
Yeah, it should be exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I channeled my best like middle-aged white guy dance during that intro. So
that's a classic one. That one never is eternal,
True.
It'll always have its place.
I feel like I have like the awkward small talk where I'm like, so how are you, man? But we also just did that for our Friday stream. So it's kind of like because I have another podcast, sometimes people will like give me some information about them. And then I'm like, maybe don't answer, so that it's actually like you and I, when we talk about like CR and then we're like, should we talk about this or should we save it for, our discussion? So either way, here we are.
We're here. We're ready to go. And if you missed our live stream, don't worry. We have started also putting that up as a podcast, and you can find it on the YouTube channel. So be sure to come hang out with us. And if you guys like this podcast actually being live, definitely let us know in the comments or in the live stream, and maybe this is something we will continue to do in the future.
Pointing out this was a remarkably awkward-less intro. It kind of went off,
man.
Yeah, kind of went off without a hitch.
It's finally happening.
Yeah, because they, people on YouTube didn't see the awkward dance; they just heard the music.
That's right.
So there you go.
So yeah, if you want to see some awkward dancing, it's another reason to come hang out next time.
Yeah. Well, we've already chatted on the stream about how we're both doing. We're both doing fine. Announcements, though. A couple things that we've been chatting about in the Discord. Well, first of all, we have Worlds Beyond coming soon-ish. Probably Monday would be my guess. I think that's a fair guess. Yeah. Okay.
That works for me.
So probably Monday for that. We have the next CR episode is next Thursday. I think that's the last one before the show, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. The live show. Yeah.
Okay. Then there's the live show, which I'm sure we'll talk about that as well. Any other announcements related to the channel?
I don't think so. I don't think we're like quite there yet, but I did notice some chatter about Calamity, and we do plan on doing another Calamity rewatch, but coming soon, but I don't know how soon. Like, it still might be a few months from now. I don't really know.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking in Discord about because some people were already trying to get that going, which, by the way, if anyone ever wants to host something like that, I don't see any reason, to say like, no, don't watch things with other people. The 1 year anniversary of it is end of June. So depends on how much we want to line up with that date. Because I think we want to make it like an annual thing, like an annual rewatch. So
be fun.
We'll see. Also on the Discord, we've had a lot of chatter around. There's a channel called the Adventure Board, and the D&D channel. A lot of people have been getting together to play games together. One shots, campaigns, things like that. If you're like many other critters, many of us love D&D, but we don't always have someone to play with. So you're welcome to check that out as well and find your next party. So there is that as well.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the coolest things about this community is that there's been, I think, more than a few games that have sprung up now. So I love to see that.
Yeah. So check that out. And again, just in general, a plug for the Discord. Every Thursday night, we have a watch party for the latest CR episode. Our tagline is, it's better than Twitch, I guess. we like CR. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many people hate watch CR, but it's a great channel the watch party is fun just to get in and chat about the channel, or excuse me, chat about the episode. And then lately, I don't know how long it'll last, but lately we've had a Beacon live stream for the CR cooldown after the fact, which is a really fun for people who want to see that and kind of hang out together and watch that. That's another option as well. So
yeah, it's been great.
Okay.
One thing, but we probably shouldn't talk about it now. I don't know how much time we have, but I just remembered something I wanted to talk to you about in the live stream, but I only just remembered now.
Okay.
And that was how your Star Wars one shot went.
Oh yeah, we should have talked about it in the live stream.
Yeah, well, so give us just a quick rundown.
Yeah, so I'll post like some of the story stuff that I put together in the I'll make a thread on the D&D channel. So if you click on the D&D channel, you can do like a sub thread that's like just for that topic. So I'll do something like that. I have like a pretty high standard for myself. So like typically when I end D&D, I'm like, oh man, that sucked, or that could have gone a lot better. And Joy's like, no, it was really fun, or what have you. But the pain point that I ran into, it was fun. It was a really fun one shot. It was about 6 hours. And it had a really satisfying end to it. But basically the nuts and bolts of it in terms of like the fun part was they found like this Sith artifact that was like corrupting, and they were like, it's very like Mordor-esque in that they were surrounded by like this lava plasma that they could throw it into. Well, the rogue took it from the Jedi person basically to be like, I don't want you to be tempted by this. And then the rogue was convinced to throw it into the plasma, but he made a wisdom fail. He failed a wisdom saving throw. And so he threw it in the plasma, or at least it looked like he did. And then in the outro, I had like for each character, like, this is what you did next. And I ended it with like that character sitting on a bed and like basically pulling out from a false pocket the artifact.
Uh-oh.
And so everyone was like, what? No, So that was a very cool, satisfying ending. The negative of the one shot was they were on this mission and they could choose a character. Well, the leader of the mission, no one chose. And
no.
and so I ended up playing that character as an NPC for like the first hour. And the pain point I ran into was because I was like the leader, everyone was kind of constantly waiting on me to do something. And it created this, I think you've probably been in a session like that where like you're the DM and you're trying to like set things for people to do. And people are kind of just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You know, like waiting for you to do the next thing. So like the first hour very much felt like me monologuing, you know? And so that was definitely the weakest part, was just like, I just didn't create it in a way where people were actively like investigating or engaging. So
yeah, I don't know if that was probably nothing speaking to you though, because weren't all these people new?
no, these were all people they were a combination of my two campaigns basically. So it was 6 people total. So
well, I still feel like, that feels like kind of fresh D&D nerves of like new table, new game. Like, oh, I don't want to be the one to like railroad us this way. So they're probably just like looking for you to guidance, and not in a sense of like I don't think you did anything wrong.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't,
yeah. And not to like
put that on you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And not to like, soak up even more encouragement from you. But also at one point, one of the guys, in terms of, I really like when people are engaged at the table. And one of the guys like got up and like mid-session, like went and sat on a chair and was like on his phone, just like scrolling.
What?
And so that was like for like 15, 20 minutes. And then for his turn, he'd be like from the chair, he'd be like, oh yeah, I'm probably going to do this. And I was just kind of like, man, like, why aren't you at the table, like engaged? But I also was like, as a DM, I was like, okay, I should have thought of how to engage him better. So little things like that. It wasn't the perfect table.
Yeah.
It was very different from our one shot, where like from the get go, people were like, boom, boom, boom.
Just the hot ones for you, man.
The hot ones, dude. Yeah. Which has probably been
crack up at that one comment. I don't know if it was in the live stream or what, but I don't even remember it enough to do it justice, but I think you know what I'm talking about. We're like, oh, those 2 of the hot ones are here.
Yeah, Larissa and Barb, they're the hot ones.
Yeah.
Wait, no, not like that. Yeah. That was a really great one shot, which for you guys watching, we're going to do another one shot at some point. It takes a lot of work to prep these out. But that was a very special thing. And that one shot was total strangers, but like immediately engaging really well together and playing really well together.
Yeah,
so,
that was a great time.
Anyway.
And bro, just real quickly, that was not on you that the guy left the table and went to scroll on his phone. Like, that's on him. Like,
yeah,
that was
I appreciate it. Yeah. Thanks, man. So, well, let's get.
I'm glad to hear it went well overall.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, that sounds like a really cool ending. Did they want it like? Were any of them like, we gotta play again?
I'm sure we had like Domino's pizza and whiskey. So I think by like 2:30 in the morning, people were like, "All right, well, let's go to bed." And then so a few people left, and then like me and like the guy it was 4 and like 2 other guys just talked about the one shot till like 4 in the morning, and like kind of behind the DM table, like what could have happened if we had done this, and like oh, like here was like a blinking button, we didn't press it. Oh, like for example, I introduced a droid that was going to be like an ally and like be an ally for the final battle. And as they were talking to the droid, the rogue was like, all right, while its attention's away, I want to take the blaster and basically fry it. And I was like, you want to kill?
Seems like a nuisance.
It's like, you want to kill the droid? It's like, yeah, I don't trust it. And I was like, basically like that. And I was like, okay, yeah. So he kills the droid. And I was like, okay, that was going to be like a key ally in the final fight. Yeah. So I had a second one come in. Here's another one. And they killed that one too. So I was like, all right, we're going to just table the droid ally idea. And then the other funny thing that happened was the main character basically died. Like he was being way too dangerous. He basically died. It was like a point where I could have like finished him. And then I was like, well, dang it. He's like the main character, because it was a bachelor party. He was the bachelor.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I don't know if I probably shouldn't kill the main character like 2 hours in, because we don't have backup characters. So I was like, all right, it attacks somebody else. That was like the only other funny part about it. But it was all really good. Everyone did a great job. And, it was fun after the fact being like, yeah, that droid could have been a great ally for that really hard combat, but
Yeah, your own cooldown,
Y'all killed
basically.
it. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
So
that's the best. But yeah, I'm excited to. If you're gonna do a little write up, I'm interested to hear what happened
yeah,
because your little preface sounded really cool that you
yeah,
shared.
that was cool.
Um,
All right, well,
yeah,
I've been pretty long winded with it, so should we get to this episode?
let's do it. Let me pull up my notes really quick. I'm first half, right?
Yeah. Uh huh.
Okay, good. Um, so yeah, those of you know the drill by now. We like to do a little in-depth recap of the Critical Role episode before we dive into our discussion of it. We cut that out, host it separately on YouTube for your viewing convenience. So if you happen to be just on the recap and you'd like to hear our full thoughts, that will be linked down in the description below. But without further ado, episode 96 of Campaign 3, Shadows New and Old. So we pick up with the party in Zadash, basically still reeling from this whole situation surrounding Odahan's sword, where Orym and Laudna got into it over it. So Laudna and Imogen are on the roof of this hotel, basically, with everyone else still in the hotel room. And the episode starts with basically this really like emotional RP with Laura and Marisha just talking about what's going on here. And Imogen asks, "Hey, was that you or was that like really Delilah?" And Laudna says she can no longer distinguish between the two anymore. And Imogen says, "Well, what were you actually trying to do with that? Were you actually trying to protect Orym, or was it more about just absorbing it for yourself?" And Laudna says that Delilah told her it was evil. And Imogen's like, "Well, Delilah lies. And if you want to actually get rid of her, you have to stop feeding her." And Laudna says, "We agreed we had to do what it takes to take down lewdness. So I'm going to use Delilah as a tool, and then I'll get rid of her." And Imogen says, "That's exactly how Delilah views you, right?" And so they basically like keep going on this conversation to eventually where Imogen says that, "You're strong without Delilah, and Delilah just doesn't want you to believe that. She wants you to think you need her." And Laudna says, "Are you still bothered by the fact that she's like always there watching us?" And Imogen says, "Yeah, I don't like it at all." And there's basically this one line that does, critical emotional damage where Imogen says, "I'm just gonna miss our little cottage." And that line like really resonates with Laudna. Like she starts breaking down and crying, and Imogen says, "Are you ready to go back now and like talk with everyone else?" And Laudna says she needs a minute. So Imogen returns by herself. But meanwhile, while this was happening in the hotel room, everyone else is talking about what just happened and basically filling in Dorian with the situation, like explaining the Delilah thing. And he's like, "Whoa, is it okay that Imogen's alone with her right now?" And they're like, "Yeah, she'll be fine. Like, she'd never hurt Imogen. And, she loves her." And so Dorian then finds out about this relationship between Imogen and Laudna, and they're just filling him in on everything. And after that, Dorian asks Orym, he's like, "So can we trust Laudna or what?" And Orym doesn't respond, but Fern does and says, "Of course we can." And it's like right here where Dorian asks if they can trust Laudna that Imogen returns. And they ask her if she's okay, and Imogen says no, and that she saw Delilah like literally come out of Laudna, and she does not think Delilah has good intentions. Um, Meanwhile, back on the roof, Delilah is telling Laudna that no one else can understand her and what they've been through, and as she's kind of like filling Laudna's head, Laudna can hear Fern calling for her. So, um, Laudna returns to the room and she says, "Sorry, I didn't mean it." And Orym kind of interjects and says, "You know what? I've been thinking. Dorian's right. It's just a thing. I wanted to use it against lewdness, but more important than it being at my side is you being at my side. And I don't want there to be any distrust between us, so I don't want the sword." And he places it on the table. He says he's putting his trust in her. He knows he's going to trust that her intentions are pure. Oh, excuse me. He says he's putting his trust in her. And Laudna says, "My intentions are pure, but I just don't know what's real or not." Um, and everyone basically tells her, like, "You have power without Delilah. You don't need her." And while this is happening, Chetney does put the sword back in the bag of holding to get it out of the way. And as everyone's just kind of reconciling with what happened, Ashton takes out that pipe, the one that shows you your greatest achievement when you smoke it. and gives it to Laudna. And she's basically afraid of what she might see. So he tells her to keep it and, use it when she's ready, basically. And they end the conversation with basically everyone just saying, "Hey, you just need to be honest with us. Let us know when you're struggling. Like, let us know when Delilah's talking to you and to trust us more than her." So at that point, everyone goes to sleep except Orem, who kind of stays up all night, takes a point of exhaustion. And in the morning, he and Chet run to the clothing store to get his armor dyed. They just run a few errands, and after they do that, they run into Essek, who just says, "Hey, let me know when you guys are ready to go. We're headed to like a frozen wasteland, by the way, so be prepared." So the rest of the party then wakes up, and they all go to collect their new outfits that they had commissioned. And basically, the next like section is just everyone describing their new outfits, and we get new art, which I'm not going to waste everybody's time by just explaining here. Go check out the art if you'd like to see them. Um, But after they do that, they basically say, "What else do we need to do before we go?" And they decide they want to use the harness to take advantage of its cooldown. So they ultimately decide to use it on one of Orem's old ring of protections, and he is the one that absorbs it. And so he gets a permanent 2 HP bonus and then a temporary advantage on attack rolls and saving throws. But that actually is going to cancel out because he has that point of exhaustion. So they then meet up with Essek, who tells them they're traveling to the ruins of Aor and how magic is wonky there. Like weird things can happen, so teleportation might be tricky, and this might take a few tries. So they join hands, start to teleport, and it's at this point that Matt has members of the cast roll a D100 in order to see what happens on this wild magic table, basically. So Robbie rolls a 14, the spell backfires, they don't go anywhere, and they all just take damage. Next attempt, Liam rolls a 45, and they are teleported to a cold place with mountains around. But Essex says, we're not in the right spot. This isn't right. So they try again. Taliesin rolls a 61. They once again teleport to another snowy landscape, and they can see a castle in the distance. And Essex says, "Okay, we're in Islecross, but not the right part in Islecross because I've never been here before." And they basically see these creatures moving in the direction of the castle, and they can tell that they're huge, like 20 feet tall, and they're humanoid and have like bones sticking out of them. So they find out that these are like zombie frost giants, and a few of them like notice the party and begin heading that way. And Essex like, "We need to hide," and that's where we go to break on the first half.
Yeah, so coming back from break, you have the stronghold a mile out. These undead giants that have noticed the party and are moving towards them, and there's basically panic. Matt describes like one of the giants just like lumbering at them. Essek, fortunately, now Essek had said that he did not have another teleport. Turns out he had one that he was saving his 9th level spell and ends up casting teleport at the 9th level. Imogen rolls her D100, gets a 48, not quite high enough. They land in a patch of snow elsewhere. They have no idea where they are. And someone has the idea of, if we bring out the machinery that we got from Ruidus, could that like maybe help us get there? Ultimately, what they decide is for Imogen to use her staff of dark intent. I can't remember what it was called. Using Ludinus's old staff, using that staff to teleport the party. To do this, she looks into Essex's mind to get like a visualization of the place, and ultimately uses the staff, but only rolls a 49 on the D100. They find themselves like in this frozen glade with like some ruins nearby, and Essex like, "All right, well, I used every spell slot I had, and you guys, no one could roll over a 40, so I need to get some sleep." So they go to sleep, or actually Essex goes to sleep. Ashton tries to climb a tree to get a look of the landscape, rolls a natural 1, can't climb this tree. Fern does it instead, and then what Matt describes is Fern seeing this huge, massive city in the distance with like these huge battlements around it, all these other like smaller towns like along the way in this valley. As Essex wakes after the 4 hours, doesn't know this place, doesn't know what the city is, but is like, well, if nothing else, my teleportation is ready again and we can be on our way. Teleports. Laudna rolls this time, rolls a 53. So they don't make it again. They're on the edge of a mountainside, basically like tumbling down off a cliff to their death. So Essex like, everyone grab on, teleports again, and Chetney rolls this time. Pretty much everyone who's rolled before is like, I'm not doing it again. Someone else do it. Chetney rolls, hits a 96. Bam. They have arrived on the edge of these ruins, and Essex is like, okay, we're here. Be very careful. Don't touch anything. There's a stealth check. They begin heading to basically what they see is like the edge of these ruins that are frozen over. And there's a tunnel that they begin traveling in. There are these like furry white creatures that are like hibernating along the walls. And Matt explains that these are like ice trolls that are hibernating. They go into this tunnel. They find a smaller tunnel that they have to crawl through. And there's a large pit at the bottom of. They ask Essex, like, is this the right way? And Essex like, yep, I've been through here, I think 4 times total. Like, it's going to be fine. We have like what we need to make it to the bottom. Long story short, they go to the bottom of the tunnel, and there is like climbing gear along the way. Like, it's clear that other people have come this way. And not only that, once they get to the bottom of the pit, it opens up to this like large ruined cavern with like furniture and like, you know, destroyed buildings. And there are a number of bodies, like, almost like people who've come along this way who died trying to loot the place. There is a comment that Essex says, my first time down in here, we fought some of these people. I don't know if this was a Campaign 2 reference by chance, but also mentions that some things are a little bit different. They continue down this cavern. They pass by an archway that has the inscription, the Praesidus Ward, Convocation Grounds, Central Deliberations. So it's the name of this ward of the city that they're stepping into. And they basically step inside this massive chamber, like this huge expanding cavern that is the ruins of Aor. They see tons of buildings, towers. They also see a number of like these blue glimmering domes, which Chetney inspects one. And this glimmering dome, Essex describes, is basically like these pockets of time where it seems like people were frozen in time, like as the destruction of Aor was happening. And there's dozens of these. In fact, one of them has like this central figure with like their hands up. And Chetney does grim psychometry and basically sees, it's basically like this amphitheater, like this coliseum with like tons of people trying to filter into this spot, like guards holding them back, and this central woman trying like to calm people as this white light crashes over and the dome is formed. And outside of this dome, there are hundreds of bodies that are just like circled around it. They continue heading further in. Essex mentions that magic's very weird here, that there were all sorts of like wartime experiments, all sorts of creatures that they could possibly come across. In fact, one such creature, Essex sees like this corpse that's like frozen against like a door sill and is like, that wasn't here before. And then Orem realizes that it's like moving like ever so slowly. It's very creepy, but it has an amulet around its neck. And so naturally, Laura Bailey, you know, wink, does telekinesis, pulls it off, and is going to pocket it before Essex is like, I said, don't. It's the one thing I said, was to not touch anything. So they throw it aside, but then Laudna, interestingly enough, mage hand, grabs it, puts it in her bag, and they continue on. They eventually come across a destroyed tunnel. Essex like uses telekinesis to remove the stones from it, and they basically step into what Matt describes as kind of like the heart of the city, like this industrial heart where there are, again, these like huge battlements. You get the impression this was like a really important part of the city. And there's like this central spot in this area where like the metal and stone has been ripped apart, almost like a geyser, like blasted through this ward. And Essex says this is the Genesis Ward. They travel further into the Genesis Ward. They eventually find like this large tent. Chetney sends up Arcane Eye with his monocle to take a look at it. And there is blood everywhere, and also like 4 or 5 bodies that are strewn about in this tent. The party goes up. They take another look. Everyone's been slashed in it. And Matt describes, it looks like someone was slashing with like joy and like violence, like an appreciation for violence. And there's this one younger elf who has a dagger in their throat and like a smile on their face. So naturally, Chetney again, grim psychometry. And Matt describes basically visions of people who were like working in this tent, these people who were basically of the Ruby Vanguard, and how this elf at some point went crazy and like brutally killed the other people who were part of this group before scrawling, carving a symbol into their chest, and then killing themselves. They tear open his shirt. They see, I guess it'd already be open. No one would have closed it. They look at his chest, and it is like a circle with a smaller circle and like symbols coming off. They don't know what it is. Laudna has Eyes of the Runekeeper. Still isn't sure what it is, but with an Arcana check, knows that it's something divine. And they don't know if this was like something by the gods that caused this or something else. But they get interrupted because they hear like a grinding sound in the distance. Everybody like scrambles to hide, and everyone has to roll a stealth check. They see this crazy, creepy, Matt describes like this 20-foot tall lumbering giant who's like dragging this grinding mace behind them. Long, droopy flesh that almost looks like a cloak that's like formed on their body. And then like this spinning open row of teeth, like this maw in their chest, comes up to the tent, and these like 6 chitinous creatures, almost like scorpions, scurry out and begin looking around. Laudna rolled a natural 1, so they see her, go for her, and that is where our episode ends, right on the edge of initiative. And Matt also shows us the battle map as well for next episode. And that's everything that happened in episode 96 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role, Shadows New and Old. And if you're watching just the recap, don't forget we do have a full discussion on our YouTube channel. So just click the link in the description box to get to that full discussion. And that's it. So
well done.
So here we are talking about episode 96. A lot of just really cool stuff that happened in this episode. Man, I loved, bro, has there been a conversation like Imogen's and Laudna's in this opener? Like there was some heavy RP that I was so impressed by.
Yeah, it was really good, especially combined with the RP we got at the end of 95. You know, there's like a really nice stretch, which I know a lot of people have been pining for. Just like some downtime to discuss the things that have been happening. So yeah, I thought it was incredible. You know, shout out to Laura and Marisha, who were like, Marisha was just like sobbing there in the chair, and it was hard to watch, but you know, it's really good. Yeah,
You love it when your players are so involved in their character that like the line isn't like Marisha being like, hey, that was a good line. It's just like, you're like, oh, I really felt that. Seeing Marisha crying was just a hard to watch conversation, and a very tragic. I hate what Laudna's going through, and I hate also feeling like there's no solution. Like there's no time. We said this in our last episode. There's no time to go do a 10 episode arc to resolve this, I guess. So I kind of wonder, like, how does this end for Laudna?
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like it's going to come to a head where Delilah's going to fully take over, I guess, maybe, or the lines will be completely blurred at least.
Yeah.
But depending on when that happens, it's not like if it's in the fight with lewdness, they can't really like turn and address that, you know? So yeah, I don't know. Best guess is after everything's over, if it hasn't already erupted, to deal with it.
I can see it. We talked about this last episode. I could see it being like a Bell's Hells reunited, like we never dealt with Delilah, like 2 episode follow up or something, maybe, you know?
Yeah, I could see something like that.
Yeah.
Although I do expect it to reach ahead in the campaign.
But I think you're right.
Not that means they'll solve the problem.
Yeah.
And so maybe like the ultimate solving could be the reunion type of thing. But I definitely think that like we'll see something come of this.
I feel bad because I don't want to blame the party, because ultimately, I don't know if there's anyone to blame, but I think it was fair for Laudna to say, like, hey, we all agreed to embrace. And I think she mentioned this in the previous episode, like her decision to kill Bordor, like Orym like gave the go ahead. And then there was a conversation with Imogen about like leaning into Predathos, like using what power we can. So I don't want to say like it's anyone else's fault, and maybe it's not right to use the word fault when we talk addiction, but I just feel kind of bad that she's kind of like now strung out, like Everyone's like, hey, yeah, Laudna, you really shouldn't have done that. And it's kind of like, well, there were like a lot of opportunities though along the way to be like, hey, let's get Laudna some help. I don't know. I don't know really what I think, but
I get what you're saying. Um, it's just tough. Yeah, I don't think really anyone's at fault. I think it more speaks to like everyone's kind of in this situation. Well, not everyone, but like similar with Imogen, like using the Predathos Rudisborn power was kind of like equated to Laudna using Delilah, to both like ends
yeah,
justify the means type of thing. But like I think Imogen cited the difference of like I didn't embrace Predathos ultimately, and you
yeah,
are
true.
embracing Delilah. So I think that like they did kind of all agree like we got to do what it takes, and so in that regard they were like pushing Laudna forward. But like everyone else kind of also at the same time
Hmm.
exercised restraint, and so maybe it speaks to like just where Laudna's at,
Yeah.
um,
I
and
like,
just yeah,
yeah, something Kendra just said in chat that I really like. It's the group telling her to jump off the bridge and then trying to back out after she jumped because they realized how high it was.
yeah,
I think it's a really great way to put it. It's
yeah,
just
I like that
not,
a lot.
it's very much like, do it. Ooh, wait. Ooh, but maybe not like that.
Yeah. Because like they maybe assumed that she was
Yeah.
operating from the same place that they were, not really knowing like the depth of what she was actually dealing
Yeah.
with. So yeah,
Is
I
this,
love that analogy.
is this the most tragic character in Bell's Hells? I mean, literally like murdered and now like endlessly manipulated by her murderer. Like, and currently, I'm not saying it will necessarily end this way, but currently seems like, as Lana puts it, I'm a dead end. Like, there's no
Yeah,
hope for me long term. I mean, doesn't inspire the warmest of feelings
yeah,
about, her character.
yeah. I think that speaks to the difference too, is that she's kind of always viewed herself as the dead end. So
Mm,
for her to go all the way is fine because she's going to use it to accomplish what she needs to, and then she's gone anyway. Whereas
yeah.
somebody like Imogen who didn't fully embrace Predathos probably like was thinking of the future of like well if we're successful or whatever the case may be, then
Yeah.
maybe I can still return to normalcy.
Yeah.
Laudna's not even considering that, which is very sad in its own right.
Yeah.
um
It's kind of a far cry from that earlier conversation early on in C3 where he's either Ashton or Orem. I think it was Ashton was asking like, how do you stay so positive? And she was like, well, the worst thing that could ever have happened to me has already happened.
yeah,
And I just kind of wonder if she would still say that today,
I feel that. Yeah,
you know, with her and Imogen's relationship, which there was a lot of dialogue on this. Like, did they break up? I don't think that was true. I don't know your take on it. The impression I got was more like Laudna being like, there's no hope for me. And Imogen being like, okay, if you really think that, then I guess, there's no future for us. Not said that harshly, but kind of like, hey, this is what you're saying.
yeah,
Um, but what was your take on that conversation?
yeah. I don't think it was like a breakup, like an
Mm-hmm.
official like we're done, but I think it was just kind of like the quiet realization of like, well, if these things happen that way, then like we're never getting that cottage.
Mm-hmm.
So yes and no, right? Like I wouldn't say that like if you went and asked them right now, they're like we're split up, but
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then Rising Rose added that conversation earlier was with Orem, which speaking of Orem, is there any like better dude? Like
Yeah, what a move, man.
what a speech from Liam. Like this was like these two episodes are probably like my favorite like length of conversation like that was most like punchy and impactful, but like Liam being like, hey, after all this, take the sword. Like, I don't want it. And I not only do I not want it, like, I believe in you. I want you by my side. Like, Lorem. Orem is just like the ultimate guy, the ultimate good guy in
Yeah.
this group. And I just thought that decision it was just an incredible speech from Orem.
Yeah, agreed. That was fantastic. Yeah, I'm wondering like where do you think that came from? Because he's had like I don't know how to put it, like moments of doubt, I guess, or like moments of like truly kind of wavering. But now he seems like that was a very strong move in the other direction.
Yeah.
So like I was trying to think Like, is it the fact that Dorian's back and that's given him some kind of like burst of hope or like, reassurance that maybe they, I don't know. I was just
This,
curious if you like
yeah, I
thought
mean,
any
I
like
think
put the
that's,
pulse on anything in
I think you're
particular.
right. I think you're right. I think Dorian was at the start of this adventure for him. And, having Dorian there is a really nice grounder, I think, for Orem. I mean, he even started his speech with like, hey, what Dorian said's right. It's just a thing. It's nothing. So I think there is power in Dorian being there. And you kind of wonder if Dorian hadn't been there, maybe Orem would be back to, hey, it's all good, Laudna. But then like on the side, we know Orem has his backup plans,
Yeah, it's
for everyone.
contingencies.
Yeah. For everyone in the group. So,
Yeah,
who
that
knows?
being said, I think he's still
Yeah.
warrior mentality, has that kind of back there. I think both things can exist, but it's still the fact that he did that was still a big move, I think.
Yeah. I don't think he was being like disingenuous.
Yeah,
Like,
me neither.
that comment he made to Imogen where he said, I'm not worried about you, Imogen. And you kind of knew that he was almost sort of like trying to inspire confidence from Imogen, but we knew he was still thinking about what to do. I didn't get that here. I thought it was like a very genuine, like, hey,
Yeah, same.
And I think also in a way it was Orem's like final, speaking of contingency, like I think he would only do the contingency if it was like his only option left. And I feel like this was him exhausting whatever he had left. Like, I'm going to tell you how much I believe in you. I'm going to leave it all on the table and you will ultimately decide, what you do from there.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I agree. And he prevented, in a nice kind of poetic sense, he prevented that sword from taking somebody else from him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. True, actually.
I'm curious what they're going to do with it now.
I think they should absorb it.
I think so too. But I'm surprised that like when they were even looking for things to absorb, I can't remember. Was it even brought up
I don't think so.
in that moment? Yeah, so I'm curious like surely they didn't forget about it. So I don't know what their thought process is on it right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they have it. The dagger's now been absorbed. I think we mentioned this in our last episode, but I guess we'll see it happen in this next combat. But Lana did get a new feat, a new ability from that dagger. Like Void Puppet, I think was the name or something to that effect.
Yeah, something like that.
So we'll see that happen. But anything else from that conversation that you want to talk about?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. One last detail I'll add about it. We got to get on our soapbox a little bit.
Yeah.
I think this is like the best form of D&D. Like when players' interests are opposed to one another, not when someone's doing it obnoxiously, like we're all going to go into the town and like, I'm not going to go. You're just like, all right.
Yeah.
But like when there's interest there, I've been disappointed, as we usually say, like people, like I read a Reddit thread of someone who was like, I hate this addiction arc. Like I'm quitting. I'm not going to watch the campaign anymore. Like it's so dumb, like, illogical basically. And, I don't know. Like I just I get annoyed at people who think like above the table where they're like, Marisha wouldn't, if she was better at D&D, she wouldn't have done that. She would have done this. And I'm just like, I don't know. This is like the best. We're eating good on some RP here. So
yeah, I mean the very generous thing I will say is different strokes for different folks, I guess.
Yeah, and I think is totally fair. I think someone who's like, hey, it's not for me. I think that's fine. One detail, T. James said, do you think they forgot about the backpack? Oh, I forgot about the backpack. Yeah, is the backpack in the bag of holding or?
I think so. They grabbed it.
Yeah, I forgot about that actually. Yeah. Interesting.
I don't. Yeah, so that's why I don't know if they have like some sort of. I mean, I don't think they could have a plan in mind for the sword since that all happened like in the moment. But
I don't think they've even inspected the backpack, have they?
I don't know. I guess not. Not since. Yeah, I don't think they have.
That's gonna have to like heavy hand DM like You wish in this moment of combat that you had some kind of thing you could put on that would, you know. And they're like, yeah, we don't have it. So anyway.
Excuse me. Yeah, I wonder if they would decide to try to use that
Mm-hmm.
or absorb it, you know?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
it
Okay.
seems crazy.
Yeah, for sure. This is such like DM woes, by the way. You give your party like 2 incredible items and like no one wants to use it. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. It's like actually in my Star Wars one shot, the main character got a lightsaber, but because it was a Sith lightsaber, which was on brand
didn't
for where
use
they
it?
were, he did not use it.
Oh no.
So I was like,
You
okay.
also find a Jedi
Yeah.
lightsaber.
It's sitting right there. So anyway. Well, let's move on from this conversation. Anything else from the first half before they start teleporting around?
One last thing. Orem choosing to not go to sleep. Do you think that was just, I mean, we've kind of already been talking about it, but just kind of him processing and dealing with all these things, or what do you think that was?
I do kind of wonder if there was a little inkling of I should just keep an eye. Like Orem is the one to like always hide his own trauma.
Yeah.
And so I kind of wonder, like the dude was just attacked in his sleep. So I wonder if like that was a thread he just like showed like the slightest inkling of just like, there's no way I'm going back to bed after what just happened.
Yeah. I could see that.
So I don't know. I think it's interesting how much exhaustion this party keeps ending up with.
Yeah.
Like
For real.
they're collecting them like the Dragon Balls. Like
They are.
it's just like, and you get a point of exhaustion. So, which I think he still has right now, right? Going into this combat.
Well,
No, they no. Well,
did they get like a
they
full
didn't
rest?
They didn't long rest because Essek only needed 4 hours. So I think he has the point of exhaustion still because when they were climbing down into Aor, he was going to use the benefit of the whatever he absorbed. Was it a ring? I can't remember.
Yeah.
And Matt said it's a straight roll because your
That's right.
your advantage and disadvantage cancel out.
So yeah, he still has it then.
Yeah. Okay.
Rip.
Yeah, he's a pretty central character in combat. But what was your take on him not sleeping? By the way.
No, basically that. Just like I think I didn't have the words to consolidate it like you just said, but I do like that. Like, kind of like, well, I'm not going to sleep after that. Like, I need to make sure that everything is still okay. Like, kind of not. I don't know if trauma is the right, like a trauma response. I don't know if that's necessarily what I'm trying to say, but that and just kind of like too much was happening. Like he had too much to like going through his mind to really get any rest that night. That's how I.
Well, and like, unfortunately, kind of like stereotypical Orem's dynamic in the party. No one really like sat down with them to be like, "Hey, are you okay?"
Yeah.
That focus was primarily on Laudna, which Laudna needed that attention, but Orem's always the one who, people aren't really checking on. So
yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, let's move to the back half. So the party hijinks ensue. We see, I'm presuming the frost giants, was that from the previous, after the apogee solstice? Remember they were traveling, I think it was maybe the Wildmount group. They came across those frost giants, right? And then they like ran away or something.
I don't remember. Actually, no, I do remember now.
It was something
they were
like that.
Throwing snowballs at them, kind of.
Yeah.
They weren't. They were like big glacial rocks, but
yeah.
I didn't put
definitely.
That together.
Yeah. Snowballs is a little light for.
Yeah, they weren't having fun.
Yeah. I mean, I got the impression it was the same. And I think this was on their way to Molesmere is when they came across them, I think.
Yeah, I can't speak to it because I completely forgot about that, but that makes sense. So could be, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe somebody in chat will know better.
And then your CR knowledge, the stronghold, is that a breadcrumb for like future content, or is that a callback to something?
The castle they were at?
Yeah.
If it's a callback, I don't recall.
Yeah, okay.
Because I know Essex said he didn't recognize the area.
Yeah. Okay.
which would make me think it wasn't someplace they went in C2, but
Yeah.
the Mighty Nine could have been there without him, and I'm just not remembering. But that didn't ring any bells for me.
And then speaking of C2, was it a callback when they descended the pit and there were the
Yes.
bodies? Okay, cool. So that was like an
And that was
encounter from C2.
yeah.
Okay,
I
cool.
mean, I can give you a little more context, but I mean, you know what happened because they saw it. But if you don't want spoilers, I won't.
No, sure. Yeah. Tell me. What?
I mean, it's not really spoilers, but they basically set up a huge trap right there. They were being pursued by a group, and I can't remember what they were called, but they had like collected all of these like remote mines. You could basically think of it like arcane remote mines. And so they set literally all of the ones they had there, and were hoping that like when they descended down this kind of choke point tunnel, that would blow up and deal some damage. And it did. It took out I think a couple of them just straight up. So we were seeing kind of like their corpses, I guess, from that moment.
What a cool detail.
Yeah, cool little callback.
It's cool for, I'm sure, the table to like kind of go back to these like moments in the previous campaign.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, they were freaking out. I think they were talking about it as it was happening. Yeah.
So in the previous campaign, when they went into Aor, they also did they see these blue domes then as
Yes.
well? Okay, cool. Is there
Yeah.
any like context from C2 that we don't have? We didn't get
Basically
this
the same
episode?
thing you found out from Chetney's grim psychometry. So that these are presumably, or that main person, I guess, is presumably like a very powerful person from Aor that cast that like time stop spell. So yeah, they ran into exactly that same thing. This is also where they ran into D,
Hmm.
the person that
Yeah.
found and
Hmm.
fixed FCG. So the Mighty Nine fixed him when they were here.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Was there any
yeah.
comments of like turning off the blue domes or like seeing if like
And I just I don't think they had any way to do that in C2. And there were other like very important pressing matters happening. So they didn't really have like the space to like sit there and be like, how can we free these people?
it's
So, like, I
interesting?
mean, there might have been like a comment about it, but it wasn't explored.
It's interesting. I don't know if this was like a plot hole that Matt's going to have to figure out or if it was intentional, but with all these like wards and things dispelled because of the apogee solstice, it's interesting that none of these things were dispelled.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So I wonder if there's a reason for that or if, whether we just forgot about it or what have you. But
yeah, I don't know. I would be curious to know if he had like if Matt like specifically had rules in mind for why that would happen, because it's not all magic got like eliminated from the world.
yeah, that's true.
Like only some did. So like maybe this magic is of a school that wasn't affected.
Something we talked about in terms of like why Revivify, etc., wasn't working is it like divinely inspired magic that's not working? And it doesn't really track with like sending spells, like why that wasn't working. But if that thread is somewhat true, then Aor, who was opposed to the gods, it would make sense then that their source of magic wouldn't be a deity magic that got dispelled, essentially.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm curious if like the fact that it's come up twice now, specifically, I mean, not that it would be like a relevant plot point or anything, but just if it would be like an event that happens within the world of Exandria that those people get unfrozen. That would be fascinating, because they even talked about it a bit, but like, because it's probably an instant for them, right? Like if they were to come out, and it's been, I don't know exactly how many years, like 1,000, if not more. And like these are people from the Age of Arcanum that like were literally dealing with kind of the same general problem.
Yeah.
Insofar as like the gods, and so I just very curious if they did get defrosted, and like what would their stance on these things be? Like what would they do? And at least one of them seems to be supremely powerful, if not multiple people that are frozen down there.
I mean, you would kind of hope they wouldn't be unfrozen, right? Because wouldn't they be Team Ludinus?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, it's just because like they are kind of like not directly involved, but like would very much like seemingly yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. Um, you begin in a tavern. Mentioned that he thought the figure was going to be Sam, like they were going to somehow figure out how to turn it off, and that's Sam's character. Though the
Yeah,
power, maybe it's not because maybe the power disparity would be too big, but I don't know.
yeah, he could be just a Frozen character, which would
Yeah,
be very similar to FCG and some like another character from that time, but one that retains their memories, I guess.
yeah. And then Carrie said what was really cool was Robbie got all excited because he recognized the cavern because he did the Nine Eyes of Lucian audiobook.
Mm.
It's cool, like all the excitements, having not watched C2, like seeing those moments like with the Dark Phoenix, for example, where Travis was like freaking out.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm just like, what's happening? I don't know. But it's kind of fun to watch though.
Totally. And I don't know why this reminded me of it, but I think it was this episode. There was just a moment that cracked me up. I think it was in the first half where everyone was talking and like Travis was like launching into like a monologue, you could tell, and Taliesin cut him off. Do you remember that?
No,
It was so funny. I love Travis.
Yeah.
Anyway, weird anecdote because I'm not really expressing
Yeah.
it well, but if anybody else remembers, hopefully you know what I'm talking about. Um, but yeah.
Now, not in C2 though. They didn't make it to the Genesis Ward, right? I think is what you said.
No, they did.
Oh, they did make it to the Genesis Ward.
Yeah, because that's where
Oh.
all like remember I told you the weird
Yeah.
experiments
Okay.
were happening. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And the Factorum Malleus, all that stuff. So they make their way there. Do we
It's
know?
also-
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say it's also we haven't talked about this recently, but it's also generally the same area where there was this like massive corrupted forest, which ended up being the same corruption that was in Malaysmere.
Mm,
We've kind of talked about that connection before in the past.
I forgot that. That's interesting.
Anyways, sorry. Continue.
The destruction in the Genesis Ward, what looks like the geyser blew through. Do we have
Yeah.
any more context on that?
We might. I don't remember actually. Somebody in the chat might remember better than me. But that was there in C2, but I can't remember if we like exactly found out what that was.
Okay. And then was this large, flappy-skinned giant in C2?
I don't think so, but I not specifically. But again, we just knew that like the Genesis Ward was where they were doing all these crazy experiments, and there were a few like specific creatures. I think that maybe even like we're still kind of imprisoned, like in their cells type of thing. But I don't remember this specifically being one that was described. But it easily could have been, but because it was nothing that they ever interacted with. It reminded me of Cloverfield Monster a little bit, the way it has like the little ones,
Yeah. Great
super
movie.
creepy. Yeah.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Great movies.
There's 3 actually.
What's the
Third
second
one's
one?
not as good. No, the second one is probably the one you're thinking of. The
10 Cloverfield Lane. There was a sequel after that?
Yeah. So it's kind of like an anthology, because
Yeah.
the second one wasn't really connected to the first one, but the third one tries to connect them all kind of in the mythos. It's called like the Cloverfield Paradox.
Oh, that movie was awful, dude. Unfortunately.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
And I remember being
It wasn't
so
great.
excited because they like announced it and then they were like,
It was a surprise.
yeah, and they're like, it's available now. And
yeah,
like
it was during the Super Bowl.
Yeah. And I watched it that night.
Me too.
It wasn't awful, but it definitely didn't do justice. 10 Cloverfield Lane was like a hidden gem.
Really good. Yeah, really good. I don't know if it's actually happening, but they're, I think, making like a direct sequel to Cloverfield, the first one.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Now, when I say direct, I don't mean that it's like takes place the next day, but it's like more of a true sequel than compared to 10 Cloverfield Lane and the Paradox.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so they made it into the Genesis Ward. We have Crazy Elf kills all their friends,
Yeah,
the
that was
sigil, is that a C2 thing or
No, that's new.
Okay.
I think.
Do you think this was like do you think this was something in the Genesis Ward, or do you think this was like Matt mentioning it's divine? Do you think this was like a God's like, hey, I want to mess up y'all's plans a little bit, so shenanigans?
Were they? I couldn't remember. Were they wearing Vanguard clothes, or did I make that up?
No, yeah, they were. Yeah, they were Ruby Vanguard.
So, okay, wait, sorry, I just confused myself. What was your question again?
Oh, do we think this was something like the person going crazy, killing everybody and then themselves?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you think this was something in the Genesis Ward that did this?
Oh,
Like
like
its
possessed
influence?
him or something?
Yeah. Or do you think this was like a god, one of the gods being like, hey, I want to create some hiccups around what the Ruby Vanguard's doing and like, you know, mind
I
zapped
would
them?
lean more not Genesis Ward,
Okay.
but I don't really know. Like at, when we first stumbled upon that, I was wondering if Ludinus had done something.
Hmm.
Like, because we know he'd been coming down here doing whatever. Like maybe he did some weird ritualistic sacrifice, but then I don't like. Clearly, it was this young elf, whoever this guy is. Like could it have been at the behest of Ludinus, or like yeah, I don't know. Like it, the fact that Matt called that symbol deific or whatever, um, makes me think it wasn't related to the ward. But like I'm trying to, I'm not like looking at it right now, but I know there are some like betrayer-esque gods. Like I mean, even in Calamity, I can't remember his name, but remember the guy that, that
Bespin?
that was invisible.
Oh yeah, the it was a cultist. It was a cleric. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
and like it
Asmodeus.
described like how I don't know what's happened to my hair here. He described that his body like was Brennan basically like the amount of like giving a follower like that much power that quickly
Mm-hmm.
results in like he was all like deformed and messed up. Like
Yeah.
not that the same thing was happening here, but it reminded me of like something an evil god would ask of his followers, like murder everyone and
Mm-hmm.
but what the point of that is, I don't know.
Yeah. Yik Longte said, the sigil suggests more occult style problems than science gone wrong problems, so I lean away from Aor tech.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to put it. So yeah, I think, yeah, and you calling on that Brendan Lee Mulligan description of that cultist makes a lot of sense for sure. So, but why though? But I guess it's just, like
Yeah.
I said, maybe it's just hijinks to, interrupt them, I guess. So, um, interestingly, Yiklongte added, I'd guess sub-divine entities like Vesh or Ukatoa. I don't know who Vesh is. I'm sure you do. Because anything at the level of the gods would be more focused on Predathos, not this tiny, cute side project of making people insane.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's very weird. Like, why did it need to happen down here?
Seemingly like a meaningless. I mean, there wasn't like an artifact there at the table. It seems like just like a. You do kind of wonder, like, why this little group?
Well, I guess devil's advocate could be that the gods know that Ludinus needs something down here to
Yeah.
to reach his goal. So maybe maybe one of the betrayer gods snuck in one of their cultists to just sabotage the mission.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Um, but
Oh, so do you think maybe this person wasn't like? I thought this person was like working and got like mind controlled, but do you think maybe it was like a secret cultist who like got in there and then like, you know,
it's possible, right? Like I don't know if that was simply all it was though. What's with like the ritualistic carving? Like what's like because he could have just killed everybody and then left, but also carved runes and killed himself. So like you would think that served some purpose, but I don't know.
yeah, yeah,
Also not Vesh, just in case you were curious. You remember Cash from Legend of Vox
yeah.
Machina?
Oh,
Um
okay, yeah. That's
it's
Vesh.
his
Yeah,
yeah, it's his it's complicated, but his wife kind of who's
yeah,
also like a god sort of.
yeah, yeah.
Um
It's complicated.
yeah, yeah.
Well, we're getting combat at the start of this next session. Um, any other things you want to talk about from this episode?
Let me look at my notes really quick.
The city, by the way, the massive city. I actually wondered if that was what's the Dawn City? The name of it.
Oh, Vasselheim?
Actually, I wondered if it was Vasselheim, but it seems like Essek would have recognized it if that was the case.
The Frost Giant City? Or are you talking about something else?
No, where Essek was like sleeping, and then they were
Oh,
Vern
right.
got up in the tree and saw like this massive city in the distance,
Oh,
and like
right, yeah. It
so.
might have been. I didn't even think about that. It could have been, I guess,
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
depending on where they were. I think we talked about most of the things I wanted to.
Okay.
Just in general, I too really enjoyed kind of the C2 callbacks. It's really interesting to be back here um, in the Genesis Ward specifically.
Yeah.
Very curious about that massacre. Like we were just talking about, like what's going on there, and is Ludinus here? I'm wondering, and could this weird thing be the Dominox?
Oh, interesting.
Because that,
Maybe.
I mean, it doesn't have to be, but could be.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you guys for watching today and being part of our first ever live stream of our Critical Role discussion. We'll have this up on YouTube shortly, but also don't forget, you can be in our Discord channel if you want to be chatting about the campaign. We have a Campaign 3 channel as well. And then we'll have our live stream, or excuse me, our live chat for next week's episode. We'll go in there as well. So thank you guys for watching.
Yeah. Thank you guys for hanging out, and let us know if you liked the live aspect. So Harry, if we do this more, we can try to be more, not that we weren't this time, but like more interactive and take questions. But yeah.
Yeah.